Okay. So, hmm. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to talk about autoimmune issues. So autoimmunity. So I do want to preface that obviously you come here and many people could have autoimmune issues just from either Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. Well, heck, you might even know someone dealing with autoimmune issues. So I'm going to go really in depth on just kind of like what could be the root cause, what actually taking a root cause approach is, a functional integrative approach with autoimmune issues, because as you know, if you are dealing with any type of autoimmune condition, their suggestion is immune suppressant drugs, creams, some type of medication such as that. But as someone who's actually really helped many people with autoimmune conditions, um, heal, reverse their issues, get to the root cause, do all the things that we want. There is ways to do it naturally. There is ways to heal from autoimmune issue naturally, whether it be Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, sclerosis, psoriasis. And so I do want to break it down in terms of there's normally three types of autoimmune issues that people struggle with. So what that means is that they're either struggling with either some type of skin autoimmune condition, so that's like psoriasis, that's like uh, hmm, even eczema, I guess like a lupus rash, and then there's also a joint. Okay, or I should say organ. We'll go organ type autoimmunity. So there could be Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, that is your small intestine and or large intestine, and then there's Hashimoto's, and then there's celiac disease. So that's a thyroid, that's an organ specific, okay, type autoimmunity, where either it's your intestines and your gut, and or if it's your thyroid gland. And then there's joint autoimmunity. So there's like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and lupus. Now, obviously, there's many more, but if you diversify it into those three specific categories, that helps you understand what truly, um, I guess, like where are you coming from with that? Where are you going with that? So with that also being said, the thing is that you don't just wake up one day with an autoimmune issue. It's been a progression. And so what we want to understand is that it can come from puberty and beyond to maturity. And what happens is that what is happening as you age, that influences your immune system. Because remember, with autoimmunity, it is where your body mistakenly attacks itself as it is being a foreign invader. And the specific receptor site of where it's attacking depends on what type of autoimmune condition you have, such as like maybe your body thinks that there's something going on to now it's attacking your thyroid gland. That's Hashimoto's. It's attacking your joints. That's rheumatoid arthritis. It's attacking your skin. That's psoriasis. And so what's causing that from starting? So a lot of it is from the environment. If you had a lot of environmental problems growing up or through going into adulthood or even in adulthood, that could be things like trauma, that could be things like approval seeking, that could be toxins in the environment, that could be lead, that could be paint. Okay, that is going to be inflammatory triggers actually that then causes you these issues from within. Another big thing is that you could have inflammatory triggers. Now you add that in there, that could be things like gut dysbiosis. So if you have a leaky gut or you have some type of gut bacteria overgrowth, that will lead to autoimmune issues as well. So with all that being said, I just wanted to talk about that, and then we'll get into this here. For some reason, it's not letting me actually like present this. So whatever. So obviously, autoimmune diseases are becoming much more prevalent just because around 5 to 8% of the US population have a known diagnosed effect. So that means about 5%, 8% of the population in the United States have some form of autoimmune condition. So obviously, autoimmunity diseases, so if you have autoimmune issue, whatever, it's an immunological destruction of normal tissue by the body's own immune system, causing inflammation, pain, poor mobility, fatigue, and obviously other symptoms, weight gain, weight loss resistance, and everything that you see nowadays or have been dealing with before. Obviously, sometimes they like to come in pairs. If you have one autoimmune disease, then you are most likely to have another. And then they can take a long time to diagnose officially due to their spontaneous behavior and patterns of flares and remissions. So some people can have an autoimmune issue and then they go into remission, but then they could trigger it again and then actually get predisposed to another one. So let's say you had Hashimoto's, you got it under control, and then it came back, and then now you also have rheumatoid arthritis, which I've seen a lot. So when you look at it, it's like your body starts attacking itself. So you have an antigen, and then your body starts attacking your body's cells, or I should say your antigens. The antigen starts attacking your body's cells, and then your body starts to produce antibodies to help protect it. Obviously, it is estimated that as many as 50 million Americans are living with an autoimmune disease at a cost of 86 billion a year. So obviously, it's fed by a sick system because what they're going to do is they're going to give you like pharmaceutical drugs. They're going to give you all these things that are supposed to help your autoimmune condition, but yet you're here today and you still have everything with the fatigue, the brain fog, and all that. Which not anymore because you were fixing that. But it is the eighth leading cause of death for women between the ages of 15 and 64, so majority of women. So that is important. That is crucial. There you go again, another form of death happening because of health. Okay, so obviously it is a progression. So you don't wake up one day dealing with an autoimmune issue. It's not where you go into the doctor's office and the doctor's like, "Oh, you're positive for this ANA test." That's like an antibody test, or you have positive TG antibodies for your thyroid gland. You have rheumatoid factor reading. No, it doesn't work like that. It happens. There's a time that happens. There's an environment that brought you there. There was a reason why you got there. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. And that's what you have to focus on is getting you out of that environment that caused that. Because that's the true reason to why you're here. There's been an environmental thing, whether it be um, I mean, the SAD diet, toxins in your environment, toxins in what you're eating. Maybe it's like trauma. Maybe it's high stress, not enough sleep, low vitamin D, even. Like all these things are like the impacts, the the negative things that are causing you to be dealing with this. And I say this with confidence because I've helped many people, fortunately, reverse their autoimmune issue, whether it be Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, be pain-free, I should say, have mobility, have energy, sleep through the night, think clear. And so there's a rhyme and a reason to why people are dealing with. There's a rhyme and a reason to why this is happening to your body, and your body does not hate you. It's actually trying to protect you. It is your immune system trying to protect you. So if you look at a lab reading, it is not a number. It is not a number. Looking at autoimmune issues are not just a number saying that you're dealing with yes or no. That's black and white. It means that your body's environment is not safe. Your body's environment is not where you want to be. So, uh, women make up 80% of all diagnosed autoimmune cases. Genetics predisposition to develop one. Okay, but remember, genetics load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. So I don't know if you ever heard that, but your genetics load the gun. That's what you're born with. But the environment you live in pulls the trigger on what happens. There is something called epigenetics. So epigenetics is where your environment affects your genes. That's kind of what's in the word. And so if you already are predisposed of these gene snippets, and then you have an environment that's not very helpful, full of toxins, bad people, stressful things, high stress, then you turn on those genes that make you predisposed to these chronic health issues, these chronic health conditions. So that's important to understand because so many people are dealing with the issues that they have today because the environment that they put themselves in, that they lived in, what they put their body through has caused this. Infection, drugs, diet, nutrition, pregnancy, even at times, sunlight, stress, other diseases. So it can cause these problems. I mean, it's like postpartum for women that I see all the time. You blow up, you can't lose weight, you feel like crap. See, I'm never going to know what that is, but just someone who's helped many women. Yeah. So, but it is important though because it's very true. And the thing is that it's not that your body does not hate you. I think that's important to understand. There's actually a physiological issue going on, and if you correct that issue, and no, it does not come from getting a bunch of movement in the gym, cutting a bunch of food out, and no, it doesn't happen like that. It actually happens by correcting the real reason to why your body is doing this. Okay, it is a multifactorial etiology, okay, which is just really big words to understand that it has to do with your genetic factors if you are predisposed to it. Okay. So understand that there are specific gene snippets that an individual can have that can make them predisposed to this issue. Predisposed meaning you can have this issue if you turn on those genes. We all have genes that are not even triggered, but the environment can trigger it for us. Remember, genes load the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. Okay. I Let's say this. So I'm predisposed to rheumatoid arthritis. I all of a sudden get myself in situations to where I'm in a stressful, abusive relationship. I'm dealing with emotional stress up to whatever. I'm eating a lot of pro-inflammatory foods because it's convenient. I eat a bunch of food out there, and then I am at work in the clinic and I'm breathing in chemicals. Right there, your genes have just turned on an area where to now you're dealing with an autoimmune issue, which you didn't before. Now, what are the symptoms? The symptoms are the signals. I should say, let me repeat this. Your symptoms are the check engine light to your body. So, with that being said, that means that now the symptoms that you're going to be starting to deal with this autoimmune issues are going to be weight gain, are going to be fatigue, are going to be bloating. Okay, so if we rewind, okay, your genes load the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. So if you're dealing with any type of autoimmune issue, your environment set that off. Your environment caused that. Emotional stress, trauma, approval seeking, toxins in the environment, food that you're eating, common food sensitivities. All these things is like it's like a recipe for you to have an autoimmune issue, but how you see it is you can't sleep through the night. You wake up multiple times throughout the night. You deal with weight gain. You deal with weight loss resistance. You deal with not fitting into your clothes. You deal with low confidence. You deal with low self-esteem. Those are what's causing, but at the root cause, it's the autoimmune issue. So you see it as like an autoimmune issue. I have autoimmunity, but that's just the sign. That is your body's check engine light telling you that there's something wrong upstream. So let's talk about categories of autoimmunity. I already did talk about it. There's several forms, but I like to break it down into three forms of autoimmunity. There's organ specific, skin, and joint. Organ, meaning my small intestine is super inflamed. I have Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. Same with my large intestine. Or my thyroid is in dysfunction. I have Hashimoto's or celiac disease. Now, the second is that, or you could have Graves' disease as well. I forgot to mention that. But the second is that I'm dealing with some type of joint autoimmune issue, rheumatoid arthritis, uh, sclerosis, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, yeah, all of them. And then you can have skin. So you can have psoriasis, eczema, and even like a lupus rash as well. So if we broke it into those three lanes, I think that's helping you more beneficial, like keep it in your mind so you remember it. Okay. But obviously, I speak on it right there too as well. So if we took a brief overview of common autoimmunity, now obviously this isn't when I say common, these are common. These aren't all of them. These are common. So we talk about rheumatoid arthritis. The immune system mistakenly attacks the joints, causing inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. Okay, but it can cause permanent irreversible damage to the joints if not fixed right away, or if just not fixed at all, obviously. Hashimoto's, on the other hand, which I'm very good at people resolving that issue, obviously it attacks your thyroid gland. Your immune system attacks your thyroid gland, causing inflammation and resulting in dysregulation of thyroid hormone levels that can put you in hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. Hyperthyroid can come from Graves' disease as well, which is not mentioned in this document here. Systemic lupus, immune system creates many antibodies that attach to various tissues in the body, not just like your joints, but also your lungs, your blood cells, your nerves, your kidneys. Okay. Inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, which is very common for many people, ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's. Absolutely terrible condition to have. Terrible condition to have. Terrible issue to have. But you can solve this. And I do recommend not removing your intestines in the process. You do not want, I know many people dealing with inflammatory bowel disease that removed their intestines because the doctor, the forgot what the technical name is, said that that's the only way to resolve this issue, but that's not true. You can resolve it by getting to the real reasons why it's inflamed in the first place. Why is your intestines inflamed? You can find this through a GI map test, but that's a whole different story. Multiple sclerosis. So the immune system attacks nerve cells, causing damage to different types of areas in the body. Obviously, your elbow, your hands, your knees, your hips, dealing with all of that. Um, Type 1 diabetes is technically an autoimmune disease. Obviously, the immune system attacks and destroys insulin secreting cells in the pancreas. This is why you need insulin injections. Um, Psoriasis, we talked about. I talked about Graves. Okay, so like looking at lab work is important too when you're dealing with autoimmune issues because you want to figure out like what type of autoimmune issue are you specifically dealing with. And so this is why I'm saying like I talk about the female fat loss panel, but there's the female wellness panel. Same with there's a male fat loss panel and then there's a female wellness panel. Now I'll actually pull that up here, but I actually do first want to talk about few base level labs that we like to run to rule out autoimmune issues. Now, everyone's so different, obviously, because we're not doing cookie cutter things, but it is important to understand if you are dealing with some type of predeposition, because we save lives. So we obviously ANA reading is going to be huge with looking at autoimmune issues at baseline level. The high sensitivity C-reactive protein, that's an inflammatory marker that we can read through blood work. ESR is another type of inflammatory reading that we'll be able to get, of course. And then rheumatoid factor, obviously, to rule out rheumatoid arthritis. There's TPO. So obviously that's your thyroid antibody. Same with TGAB. And then vitamin D also is very crucial to understand. Many people are vitamin D deficient. The guidelines for vitamin D sufficiency are not adequate at all. So what is normally, not ideal in the lab readings of someone that is dealing with some form of autoimmunity? They usually have an elevated or decreased white blood cell count. So that means the immune system could be activated. They have abnormal serum levels of specific organ enzymes, okay, like serum proteins, bubian, and then they also have elevated muscle enzymes. So ALT and AST is super common. I look at that a lot. And then they have elevations of immunoglobulin. Um, so those are going to be some of the main ones. So there's a lot of inflammatory markers that people neglect and don't run, or if they run, they don't actually like look into it deep. But I'd say C-reactive protein is the most common one. Usually when a doctor's like, hey, your C-reactive protein is high, what they'll do is they'll try to put you on like a steroid or something like that, which obviously doesn't really do too much because you just still deal with inflammation and doesn't get to the root cause of why you have that inflammation. And then you have autoantibodies. So this could be like rheumatoid factor. The most common one is TPO and TJB, which is found in Hashimoto's and Graves. Uh, so that's important. So there's a quick rundown I just showed you in the other document there. The ANA anti-nuclear antibody test. Um, so I won't get into this stuff too much right now. It's just more on the testing, and obviously, many people, if well, I mean, we do it initially, but it is important to get the testing done. But if you do have it, let's get into the tangible things for us to be doing. So how can you actually support autoimmunity? Well, you have to dive deeper. You have to dive into like, is there an underlying issue? So with most people, we see autoimmune issues stem from unresolved trauma, childhood stuff, like I said, approval seeking. And obviously it comes from the environment that you're living in, really. Many people have no idea. So what happens is their environment is causing them issues. It's toxin, heavy metals, lead, mercury, something called mycotoxins. This is where people have mold in their house or something, and then they have all these chronic issues. So when you though, and then you combine everything together, it's like, oh, I have mold issues in my house. I'm soaking up lead and mercury in my work environment. I'm dealing with abusive relationships or just tons of arguments. I don't get sunlight. I don't have adequate nutrient sufficiency, so I'm nutrient malabsorbed. I mean, right there, that's five triggers right there. You can no wonder why you have an autoimmune issue. And then on top of that, you're dealing with an underlying infection like yeast. So that's like candida because you have sugar cravings and crashes. You have bacterial overgrowth because you have bloating, constipation, abdominal pain, and an IBS label. You have viruses. You picked up Epstein-Barr virus and you didn't even know it. You had parasites, which don't just happen in third world countries, that happens here. So you're dealing with all these triggers, and then you wonder why your body's attacking yourself on accident. So with that being said, it's important though, because I think one thing when it comes to like health and fitness, I think as well, and this is why we get results like, fast, is that a lot of healing comes from the removal rather than adding in. So if you start by removing the things that are actually inflaming your body, causing you the issues, okay, well, if you can figure out how to mitigate the removal of the toxins that you're breathing in at work, removing the mitigation of the toxins that are coming out of the mold spores at your house. If you mitigate that, because I'm not over here telling you to leave your house, leave your work. That's not what we're doing. The word mitigate, we got to mitigate what's going on, what's causing you these issues. Um, And then a big thing is the food sensitivities. The food sensitivities is the biggest one. So why people are still dealing with autoimmune issues and they're suffering because what they got to do is they got to eliminate the inflammatory triggers, the immunological triggers that are causing the issue in the first place. So for many people, gluten is the worst. The gluten is pro-inflammatory. And here's the thing though, I don't think gluten is bad in itself. Like the gluten, the flour, gluten, wheat, gluten is not bad, I don't think. Because if you go to Italy, if you go to France, if you go anywhere like that, you can have gluten and you feel better. I believe that gluten is so bad, or I should say not ideal, in the United States is because how it's agriculturally made. So the way that it's agriculturally sprayed with herbicides, pesticides, and so forth, that leaves the gluten to be in an environment to where it becomes more pro-inflammatory. It irritates what is called your gut lining, that puts you predisposed to increased permeability, something known as leaky gut, which is a true root cause to IBS, Hashimoto's, because it's an autoimmune issue because your immune system is mainly housed in your gut. Like I said, I can't give you 10 years of information here at once, but what I should let you know is that like everything is connected. Remember, we talked about this. When we look at functional medicine, we look at the things that we're doing, we're looking at your body in a whole rather than just one isolated thing. So your gut is more than just a digestive organ. It influences your immune system, your endocrine system, your lymphatic system, your hormones, and so forth. So, with that being said, you gotta remove common food sensitivity, especially if you have an autoimmune issue. All right. Obviously, nutritional strategies. So the biggest thing is obviously removal of common food allergens, sensitivities. That's like gluten, soy, corn, dairy, and eggs. Even dairy and eggs really mainly being a big thing for autoimmune issues. Now, food sensitivity testing can be beneficial, but a lot of times I believe it's a wasted, I shouldn't say wasted, but it's definitely not ideal. It's not ideal because what you can do is you can just do the removal of those pro-inflammatory things and then you will feel better. So it's normally like that. But I do want to talk about, I do think that the removal of I should say processed foods obviously is huge, but I should say what's going on here. So limit and avoid polyunsaturated vegetable oils. This is like sesame, sunflower, canola, palm oil, corn oil. If you eliminate these things are pro-inflammatory to your cells at the mitochondrial level. So obviously you guys are recognizing like some of the cross references from what you're specifically doing to what I'm presenting here right now, right here. So obviously there's cross because there's a reason. So added sugar can be pro-inflammatory to your cells that then causes inflammation that then causes immune system upregulation. Okay, that's all paired together. Highly processed and refined foods. And then obviously alcohol can be damaging to the liver. I should say excess alcohol usage can be damaging to your liver, can raise those ALT and AST enzymes, and that they could cause issues down the road, especially if you're predisposed to autoimmunity as well. So, what is the case for gluten removal? Gluten is a common removed food in thyroid-related autoimmune diseases. Okay. Non-celiac gluten sensitivity has been associated with dermatitis, psoriasis, lupus, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's and colitis, and rheumatologic diseases. Non-celiac gluten sensitivity. That means that you have a gluten sensitivity without having celiac, full-blown celiac disease. And this is the reference right here. It's not that I'm just pulling this out of my rear end. Let's look at the reference though, if it's going to show me. There we go. There it is. There's a reference. So there, right there, it shows you. It shows you. It's not that I'm just saying this, black and white. It shows you that non-celiac gluten sensitivity has been associated with dermatitis, psoriasis, lupus, IBD, Crohn's colitis, and rheumatoid arthritis. So if you're dealing with any of these issues and you remove gluten, you will most likely improve the quality of your health, most likely your life. Gluten also affects the microbiome composition. Now, I do want to talk about something with gluten and thyroid. So there's something called uh, molecular mimicry. That means that it acts as the enzyme it is. So gluten tries to act like your thyroid gland, and then your thyroid gets the super basic stuff right here, like gets confused, and then it starts attacking itself. That's why gluten, and I talk about that on the autoimmune, or I should say the thyroid slides, but um, gluten has also been shown to cause oxidative stress. So that's important as well to understand and affect epigenetic behavior through increasing apoptosis, that is cell death, and decreasing cell viability and uh, I'm gonna try to pronounce that. All right, so obviously one of the best ways to eat is high in antioxidants with a focus on obviously like fruits and vegetables to reduce reactive oxygen species. Now, let me tell you what are the best things to actually solve your autoimmune issues. So the first thing is you got to detox. You have to support your liver and then the removal of the environmental things that are causing your immune system to be upregulated. So what that means is that what we have to do is focus on your detox pathways. We have to focus on getting your lymphatic and your drainage systems moving so you can remove these negative bacteria, these negative toxins. Toxins is a word for like mercury, mold. Mold can come from mycotoxins, or mycotoxins come from mold, lead, dioxins. Okay, these are all things that your body has. I mean, it's shown that we swallow a credit card of plastic a week in just the environment we have. So that's all going to cause the immune system to go haywire. So that's why we have to detox more than ever. I mean, if you look at the Instagram post that I posted today, I mean, one of the biggest things I said was that your liver detox is just fine and doesn't need support. That is health propaganda you should not fall for. Your doctor says, oh, you don't need any liver support. Your liver does it all fine. Well, yeah, probably back in 1948, but now in today's environment, 2025, it cannot. It cannot do that. It cannot do it on its own. We've been invaded with toxins everywhere. Um, yeah. All right, so what are some big things that actually also cause autoimmune issues? This is going to be actually my next topic is bacterial imbalances. Bacterial imbalances could be like opportunistic overgrowth, as shown like in a GI map test. It could be known as leaky gut, just known as increased permeability. If you measure your calprotectin in your blood test, you can also find that out. Okay, looking at something called zonulin. This is the protein that attaches into your intestines that you can actually figure out if you're dealing with leaky gut. Yeah, so those are going to be some of the big, obviously, inflammation, low omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio. That means that you've been ingesting vegetable oils your whole life, or for the past 5 years, you've had no omega-3s. This is like we would like to induce omega-3s, right away to help balance out that omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Okay, so let's talk about some lifestyle management strategies, obviously to support your microbiome with proper nutrition, sleep hygiene, stress management, addressing nutrient deficiencies are going to be some of the big ones. Now, nutrient deficiencies really being low vitamin D. I'm telling you, vitamin D is so important, not just the supplement. Getting sunlight is so important. Using saunas help you detox. All right. So, what are some supplemental strategies? Like I said, vitamin D is going to be one of the biggest ones to help with autoimmune issues. Low vitamin D has been shown to cause all types of issues. I mean, to cause, uh, just so many, as you can see here. Talk about this a lot. Glutathione, so it's antioxidant defense. It helps with getting rid of inflammation, supporting regeneration. So that's important as well. The SAD diet, toxins, medication, stress, and illness all deplete glutathione. So the environment we live in today, the food people eat, it all causes your glutathione to decrease. Therefore, your body can't really protect itself the way that it should be. Um, So other ways to increase glutathione besides just taking it or injecting glutathione is taking NAC, NAC, omega-3 fatty acids do it, selenium, vitamin C as well. I think the biggest ones are selenium and omega-3 because selenium is going to help with something called deodorinase for your thyroid hormone. That is then going to increase T3 levels in the blood. That is going to improve your metabolism, improve your energy, improve your sleep and so forth. The omega-3 fatty acids is going to reduce inflammation in your gut and then systemically, so throughout the body. Um, Probiotics can be very beneficial, but not Walmart probiotics, unfortunately. We're talking about specific ones that are actually like housed um, in refrigerators, specific type of Lactobacillus, Acidophilus, Bifidobacterium type bacteria, because probiotics are not just something you take. It's very specific in terms of like what type of probiotic you're taking. Well, I can do a whole training on specific probiotic types, uh, reoccurring UTIs all the time. There's a probiotic for that, probiotic for skin issues, probiotic for this and that. I mean, there's so many. And you can't just take a probiotic you see on the shelf. There's ProSpore probiotics. There's Saccharomyces boulardii type probiotics. There's so much out there. And you have to know what you're doing. This is why people get hurt, and this is why people waste tons of money because they're spending their money on things that don't work and they don't know what they're doing. And that's why it's bad. It's not good. This is like I said, look at right here. This is showing the strains. So you have the species and you have the strain of the specific probiotic. It's all important. It's all important. It's not that you just take a probiotic. Okay. Let's look at this 2021 meta-analysis with 18 randomized controlled trials found that L. plantarum strains, which is a strain of probiotic, improved immune function, increased levels of anti-inflammatory cytokines, meaning it helps with reducing inflammation in your body. So reducing something called TNF alpha and interleukin 6. So your body is something called TNF alpha, interleukin 6, IL-6, and it's inflammatory, pro-inflammatory. These probiotics get rid of that. They reduce those pro-inflammatory cytokines, those things that are in your body that is causing the inflammation inside. So this is why probiotics are very healing, but at the right time, because if you're taking a probiotic initially without actually getting rid of bacterial overgrowth in your gut, you're going to do more harm than good. You're going to cause more issues. L-glutamine. You know L-glutamine because I tell you guys to take it in the beginning because it helps tighten the junctions in the gut lining, so it reduces leaky gut. And if you deal with brain fog, you deal with fatigue, you deal with swollen, feeling puffy, you have leaky gut. If you're walking on two legs, or I should say, if you have a pulse, you have a leaky gut, most likely. So we want to use glutamine to support the regeneration of your gut lining because it's been stripped. Okay. So that's why I really do recommend it, as well as like 2 scoops. Okay, resveratrol can be very beneficial. No, we're not talking about wine. Yes, we talked about alcohol, but we're talking about resveratrol in like the food that you're eating. Very beneficial. Very beneficial. Um, and so curcumin is also very good. This is turmeric, like using turmeric powder, can be very beneficial as well for autoimmune issues. But yeah, that's really what we have for the autoimmune issues here, autoimmune type problems. So I do want to talk about that. It's important that we apply this information here because a lot of it, what it's doing is giving the empowerment. Like, okay, so when I tell you in the beginning, like, hey, I believe that right now would be the best time to start reducing things that are causing inflammation, causing bacterial overgrowth, causing you this, even if it's a few weeks on end. It's very crucial. It's very crucial. So I want to let me get this other resource out too. This is going in the female group chat. Let's um look at that. There, you guys can't see that. So look at that. So we have the prevalence of autoimmune disorders in women, a narrative review. Let's look at the conclusion of what it said. 80% of all individuals affected by autoimmune disorders tend to be women due to variations within the sex chromosomes and hormonal changes. Many, excuse me, many individuals are predisposed to autoimmune disorders, which are activated by a plethora of triggers such as climate, poor diet, lifestyle choices, lack of exercise, increased levels of stress, and/or lack of adequate sleep. Oh, look at that. Other hormonal changes during puberty and even pregnancy for women may often be inevitable. Many predisposed to autoimmune disorders may be able to lessen the severity or present the condition from arising altogether by abstaining from smoking, excessive drinking, or whatever. But what it's just saying is that 80% of autoimmune issues come from women. And we do think, based off this too, it's from the hormonal shifts that happen for a female. Females obviously have more estrogen than males. That can cause issues with the immune system as well as it being fluctuated. All right. So it's important, life-changing, life-changing information that not found in Google. So yeah, let's see if I have yeah, yeah. So we'll get this replay out. We'll get it going. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, let's do it. See you.